want to
Yeah,
move
if
up a
y'all-
little bit?
I'll move my
sorry.
back. If
You
y'all
may want to move up so
closer.
you can see the monitors.
Can you see the
There's a lot of
monitors okay?
photos and information.
Oh, I see fine here. Yeah, I just wear glasses for the heck of it.
Oh, do you? Well, you see better than me then. I was looking at that going,
Who are you, Winnie?
Are you covering this instead of the planning board?
See?
Planning board gets consulted?
We do have some people
They
coming
don't,
late, but
they
they've
don't have
already said to,
anything to talk about.
Okay.
Commissioners
That's
haven't given
fine.
them any directives.
Well, we're most certainly glad that everyone is here this evening.
Oh, is that
Summer's behalf, she's a little bit under the weather, so she asked me to do the honors. I have made her promise me that she will go to the doctor tomorrow, and she has already scheduled an appointment.
Okay.
So, and that is a good thing. She's a tad under the weather. We are pleased to have with us this evening what I like to refer to as Main Street royalty. Earlier today, I called her the Dalai Lama of Main Street, and she really is. Liz gets her name mispronounced a lot, but to pronounce it correctly, her name is Liz Parham.
That's right.
And Liz has a title that needs at least 2 business cards to fit on. She is the Director of Urban Development of the North Carolina Department of Commerce. Is that correct?
Uh-huh.
And that means that she is the big Main Street boss in layman's terms. And we're certainly glad that Liz could be here. Liz and I we've worked together for a while.
Yeah.
And it was certainly good to catch up with her earlier today. And we are pleased that she is with us here this evening. So Liz is a stickler for starting on time. Make her feel welcome if you would, please. Thank you, Liz.
Thanks. Well, I know most of you, but if you don't mind, let's just run around the room and do introductions. Bo, we'll start with you.
Okay, I'm Bo Bryant. I work at Premier Marketing, and I represent on the Main Street, in the Main Street District, Depot Street and West Main Street.
Okay.
I'm Sissy Patillo, and I've been on the Main Street since its inception.
Okay.
I'm Patty Abel. My husband Donnie and I own Abel Wellness.
Okay.
And I'm also on the town board of Alton.
Okay, great.
Summer Woodard, Town Manager.
Joyce Hanley, Town Alderman.
Okay.
Tony Angel, Main Street Consultant.
Bob Scott, Megan.
Ryan Hanchett, I work for the Franklin Press.
Okay.
Travis Talent, I work for the Macon County News.
Okay.
Bobby Coggins, Macon Media.
Great. Well, thank you all. I'm going to put you in the dark, and if this is bothersome to you, let me know. But I think you'll be able to see the photos a little bit better. Is that okay? You can see your plates, the important things. You can see your food. So what I was asked to do is talk through with you the basics of Main Street, and then how to make sure that you're moving forward in a way that will give you the best economic prosperity in your downtown. So I'm just going to go through sort of the basics of the Main Street program. Main Street was a concept that was created by the National Trust for Historic Preservation in the late 70s. And in 1980, it jump-started with the official Main Street program. North Carolina was really fortunate enough to be one of the first states to be selected to participate in the program. At that point, there were 6 states and 5 towns each. So if you're familiar with Salisbury, Shelby, Tarboro, Little Washington, or New Bern, then you've been to one of the original Main Street communities in the nation. Today, there's 46 states that participate in the program and over 1,100 communities. So there's lots of communities doing exactly what you're trying to do with the Main Street program. And by the way, I was told by Justin, I believe his name was, the green doesn't go away. So that's not part of my slides, just part of your system, but you'll just have to ignore that. But the basic concept of Main Street is it is economic development within the context. I'm sorry, I walk, so if I get in your way, tell me to move back. It's economic development within the context of historic preservation. So we use our historic resources as a key component for moving forward in our downtown programs. I'm gonna, actually we can see it here. If we want to attract capital, to attract investment in our communities, we must differentiate it from anywhere else. It's our built environment in general, and our historic buildings in particular that express our diversity, our identity, our individuality, and our differentiation. It's about looking at our community assets and differentiating them from everybody else. Because we want Franklin to be Franklin. We don't want it to be Silva or Atlanta or Greenville, South Carolina, or any place else. It's about making sure that Franklin is Franklin in this case. So I am the director for the Office of Urban Development. And we work in really three aspects. One, we serve any community in the state of North Carolina that's interested in downtown revitalization. We provide them mostly resources and information. We also run the North Carolina Main Street Center, and under the center there are two programs. The Main Street program, of which you're a part of, and the Small Town Main Street program. Now the only difference is Highlands is a small town program, you're a Main Street program. The only difference is the Main Street programs have Main Street directors in those towns. And with that, they're obviously able to do a lot more than the small town programs. We have 50 small towns, and we have 61 designated Main Street cities, so 111 total. And then the last program that we have is the Main Street Solutions Fund program. It's a small grant program that we have to assist with business development in our downtowns. Our mission is essentially to lead the state in understanding and administering the Main Street program and 4-point principles of Main Street. And we do that by providing technical assistance all over the state. So my team's on the road from Hayesville to Elizabeth City on a regular basis. There's 4 points of Main Street. And I'm so old that when I got into this business, the Main Street program was very much like that. It was a linear program. 4 points of Main Street. Organizations building human and financial resources within the context of a common vision. Promotion is promoting your assets, the assets of your community. Design is improving the physical appearance of the district, and economic restructuring is restructuring the downtown so that it better serves the community today. Now, when Main Street started back in the 80s, early 80s, communities would do promotional activities, special events. They might do a design project. They might recruit a business. And they thought of them as very columns that you put things in little boxes. Well, that's not how Main Street works at all. It's a circular program. It's a leveraging program. And what we want to do is create a program that one project will leverage another project. So let's say, for example, there's a new public-private partnership that was created, and that new partnership creates a new festival in your downtown. And that new festival encourages somebody to fix the facade of their building. And that facade encourages a new business to come in. And that new business and new ownership comes in and creates another new partnership or another new special event, and so forth and so on. So it builds this web of a program that one thing builds off of the next. That's economic development. The 4 points of Main Street make downtown economic development. Now, in addition to the 4 points of Main Street, there's 8 principles of Main Street. It's comprehensive. That means that we don't just do promotions like the old merchants associations, and we don't just do design like the old urban redevelopment days. We do all 4 points. It's incremental, meaning that we start with small baby steps and we build on that. We are able to do much more complex projects through the years. It's a self-help program. We tell every community that we work with, we can give you the tools and the resources from the state, but at the end of the day, we go back to Raleigh or Asheville or wherever our offices happen to be, and it's really up to you all and your community leaders to help implement the program and get the job done. And it's about partnerships. The public sector, proven time and time again, cannot do Main Street alone, but nor can the private sector. It takes both working in partnership, holding hands together and moving down Main Street. It builds on assets, again, your assets, what's unique to Franklin. It's about quality focus. When we think about any Main Street program, we want it to be a quality festival or a quality facade or a quality new business that moves in and opens up. And it's about change. And truthfully, that's the hardest of the 8 principles of Main Street. Some communities embrace change and move quicker through that process, and some it takes them more years. That's fine. We work with the communities at the level that they're at. Implementation. Main Street is not a program that we create a nice study and you sit it on the shelf and we go home. It's about actually getting things done. Now, again, I told you earlier there are 61 designated communities that are Main Street communities. Again, you're the furthest in the west. Elizabeth City's the furthest in the east. On top of that are our small towns, our 50 small towns, and that's 111. So let's talk through the 4 points of Main Street a little bit more. Organization is about building human and financial resources through public-private partnerships to create a common vision. Now, what does that mean? Well, there's 3 basic areas that we work on through organization. One, we plan for downtown success, and I'm going to talk through that with you a little bit more in a few minutes. We manage the Main Street program, and we promote the program. So that's the points of organization. When we talk about planning, we start broad and we drill down. So we start with economic drivers. What's driving your economy today? Now, in North Carolina, we've lost tons of industry. There's no doubt about that. So that, the furniture industry, the textile industry, the agricultural industry, even the military doesn't drive our communities and our economy like it once did, right? But tourism sure does. Tourism's booming in this state, and you're sitting right in the prime spot, right? Arts and crafts, artisans, foods, all kinds of things drive our economies. So we have to identify, again, what's unique to your community and what's driving your economy. When we talk about vision, the vision statements from the old days in Main Street were these long paragraphs, and they were very flowery, and everyone would kind of hold hands and walk down the street and have dinner with their neighbors on the sidewalk. And every vision statement I read when I got to the state looked the same. Every one of them did. That's really not what a vision statement is. It's what your economic role is for your community. What does your downtown serve? How do they serve the greater community? Is it the place for independent retailers? Is it the center of education? Is it the center of healthy living? What is it? And that's what we work towards. The mission is the role that this board has in accomplishing that vision. Now, the city and the city council has a role in accomplishing that vision. The county and the county commissioners do. The chamber, any groups in town have a role in accomplishing that vision. But we're here to talk about the Main Street role. And then the plan of work is both an annual plan as well as more of a strategic plan to move the program forward. Identifying stakeholders are those that can help get the plan done and bring the vision and the mission to fruition, and as well as adopting a budget that's successful in getting that annual planning done. I know you can't see this. This is a template for a planning document. This happens to be Silva from a planning retreat that I facilitated with them a couple of years ago. We are available to do that for you as well. But it breaks down, again, the vision, the mission, goals and objectives for organization, design, promotion, economic restructuring, and then strategies, the projects that will help get that plan done, or those goals and objectives done. We're talking about managing the Main Street program. We're talking about the structure. About half of our towns are structured under the city government. 23 of them are actually what I call quasi-public-private partnerships. That's like yours, where it's a city employee, but you also have a nonprofit that you're managing. That's the largest number of structures that we have, and some of them are solely nonprofits. Staff and volunteer management, that means making sure that everybody knows what their job is. Whether, it sounds crazy to have a job description for a volunteer, but if you think about it, if you have a job description for a volunteer, then they know what they're supposed to be doing. So in a lot of ways, it's just best practice. It's good management, as well as what the director is responsible for doing. And then the financial management and development, again, where's the money going to come from? Is it diversified? Is it coming from one source, or is it coming from 7 sources? How broadly can you expand and leverage your money to make sure that you can do the projects that you need to do? When we talk about telling the story, we really talk about it in three ways. And truthfully, this is the area that I think our Main Street communities struggle the most. And that is they don't communicate enough or well enough to tell their story. So people learn differently. Some people are very visual learners. They want to see the before and afters. They want to see the old photo and the current photo, things like that. Some people are numerical learners. They want to know the statistics, how many new businesses, how much the public and private investment was, how many facades, etc., how many jobs. And some are oral learners, meaning what I say and what you hear me say and what you repeat back. And it goes back and forth like that, right? So we have to, as Main Street programs, we have to learn to communicate in all of those ways to get the message across so that the largest number of people will know what we're talking about and embrace what we're trying to do. And then using a mix of tools to do that. So press releases, annual meetings, annual reports, Facebook, social media is just exploding through Main Street, but we have to manage that. If we don't tell that story, somebody else is going to tell that story for us. These guys are going to tell that story for us, aren't they? But we want to make sure that they know what we want them to say based on truth, fact, what's actually going on in our downtowns. So again, snapshot of organization is planning, managing, and promoting the program. Now, when we talk about promotion, we talk about selling the assets of our community. There's three basic areas: image building, retail sale promotion, and special event development. Now, image building has really taken off in the last 5 to 8 years probably in Main Street programs. Mainly, I think, because programs have figured out where to get the dollars, the resources to do some of that. Where 20 years ago, it was just hard to find those resources. So it's about creating a brand. You all have successfully done that. It's the colors, the fonts, the slogans, the logos, the images, it's all of those things, plus the advertising, collateral materials, media kits, all the ways to use that brand, to expand that out into the community. So a few of our logos that have been developed, you see the Franklin logo up there. It's a great logo, by the way. I really like that one. And it is different than some of the other ones, but they're all different, right? They all look very different from one another. Some, are probably more successfully used throughout the state than others, but I think yours makes a lot of sense for Frank, which is good. And then when we talk about, again, developing the brand, we talk about developing image advertising. Now that can be newspaper or radio, or it could be magazine or television. Some of our longer established programs do a lot with Our State Magazine. Some do Southern Living Magazine. You'll see them when you look at those magazines. You'll see a downtown ad or a header with downtown businesses under it, that kind of thing. Hendersonville's been doing a lot over the last few years. Creating collateral materials could be t-shirts or shopping bags or a little bit of anything and everything that, again, has that brand, that logo on there and communicates what's available. But a piece of that is also the wayfinding signs that I know you all are in the process of implementing right now. That's, again, a huge piece that we've seen really take off, in part because DOT's loosened up their regulations over the last few years. It makes it a lot easier to do wayfinding, where 5 years ago it just wasn't easy at all to do wayfinding. So that's a real nice thing that we're seeing all over our main streets and our downtowns. And then the media kits. Again, newsletters, my favorite, annual reports. I think you should always do an annual report to document the successes that you had over the previous year. But also annual meetings, again, radio or newspaper interviews, those kinds of things, ways to communicate what's going on. And then image building events. And that could be a cleanup day, it could be an awards ceremony, it could be anything that has an event focus to it, but celebrates, again, the brand, the image, the changes that are going on in your downtown. Retail promotion takes it to a deeper level. Retail promotion is people to notice your downtown. Retail promotion is getting people in the doors and getting those cash registers ringing. There's three types. There's cooperative promotion. That's taking like businesses and grouping them together. So business directors are probably the most typical and one of the most useful ways to do that, but certainly not the only way. So a taste of downtown where the restaurants come together, antique show where the antique shops come together. Those are all cooperative promotions, taking like businesses. Cross promotion is taking complementary businesses and grouping them together. So that sort of the classic is the coffee shop sells baked goods from the local bakery, and the bakery sells coffee from the local coffee shop. Coffee from the, well, you know what I mean. I got a little lost in that. But anyway, it's crossing those businesses. So maybe it's a upholstery company and a fabric store, or a lamp shop and a furniture store. And you have to look at what is in your downtown to identify opportunities for cross promotions. Years ago, I was a Main Street manager in Lexington, and when we started looking at the business mix in Lexington, we realized that we had 14 businesses that catered directly to the wedding market. We had an opportunity for cross promotion with the wedding industry. Concord's doing the same thing right now. The last one is niche promotion. And niche is not so much about the types of businesses that you have, but it's about the people that you have and what large group of people can you bring downtown. So it could be an appreciation day for seniors, or a celebration for the teachers, something like that. It could be children, teachers, employees, or college students if you were in a college town. I also worked in Chapel Hill. I happen to be from Chapel Hill. We did a promotion called Touch Downtown that brought the 60,000 visitors to Kenan Stadium to downtown after the game. So not only getting them to Chapel Hill, but then keeping them there as long as we could keep them there. Why? Because the longer we keep somebody in downtown, the more money they're going to spend. Retail promotions about getting your cash registers to ring. Some of the more popular ones that we're seeing what we call cash mobs. And cash mobs encourage you to pick a business, maybe one a month, and encourage everyone to come downtown and spend at least $20 in that business. What does it do? It infuses cash in that business for a very short period of time. It's usually about an hour, and often will help sustain businesses that are struggling. So it's been quite successful in some of our downtowns. Again, popular ones, the 350 Project. The 350 Project is a national initiative, and it says that I, as an individual, vow to pick 3 businesses a month, independently owned businesses, and I promise to spend at least $50 in those businesses. And I pick them. I don't report that to anyone. I just pick them. As a good citizen to support local businesses, I decide who I want to do that with. Small Business Saturday has just exploded over the last couple of years. It was created in 2009 by American Express, and it's a direct choice, shall we call that, to Black Friday. So Black Friday is typically around chains. Small Business Saturday says, okay, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, I'm going to go spend my money in the local businesses. And most of our downtown businesses are locally owned. So, again, it makes a lot of sense for some of our downtowns. The special events piece. That's the most widely done piece of promotion. Should not be the only piece, but it is the most widely done piece of that. There's 3 types. There's community heritage events. That's things like the Barbecue Festival in Lexington, or the River Fest in Eden, or the White Squirrel Festival in Brevard. The special holiday events, certainly we think about Christmas and Halloween, those sort of typical ones. But in Goldsboro, they celebrate National Preservation Week. Years ago, I worked and lived in Covington, Virginia, which is up in the mountains of Virginia, almost West Virginia. And they do a big Labor Day event because they have the biggest paper mill in the eastern half of the country. You know, you have to, again, look at your assets and what's unique to you, and then cater the special events around that. And then the last piece are what we call social events, and they're not so much geared towards the businesses, but they're geared towards community building. So things like farmers markets, Alive After 5 concerts, car shows, those all fall under that social event arm of Main Street. So these are just a couple of our special events from around the state over the last couple of years. There's 3 keys to promotion. 1, they have to be authentic. They have to be unique to your community, again. 2, they have to be creative. What I call the smile factor. If you can get somebody smiling about your event, it'll be more successful, more sustainable, and it'll be a better event long term. And they have to be market driven. And I'll tell you the worst event I ever did in my career to make that point. I lived in and worked in Lenoir, North Carolina. I was a Main Street director up there, and I was convinced or talked into, probably a better way of phrasing that, into doing a trying to think of the type of music. We'll just call it classical music concert. Just broke classical music. That's Bluegrass Town. I can't tell you how unsuccessful that event was. I learned my lesson. Unfortunately, I was young and they didn't fire me for that. But, and, you know, there was a very small niche that liked classical music. But when you're doing special events, you really have to look more at the masses. Is it a beach music kind of town? Is it a country music? Is it bluegrass? What music do most people like? And that's the kind of events that you need to do around promotion. We talk about design. We talk about improving the physical assets of downtown. And again, we look at the historic preservation piece of that. There's 5 basic areas: buildings, displays, streetscapes, signage, and public space. Anything visual, in other words. Now, there's 3 primary areas of work on the buildings: repair, rehab, and restoration. Repair's all the easy stuff. It's removing old hardware and old signs. It's painting a building that needs to be painted. It's all the little easy things that, frankly, make a huge difference long term. When we talk about rehabbing buildings, they're much more complex. This happens to be a building in Salisbury, downtown Salisbury. For at least 20 years, it was used as a soccer shop on the first floor. But there's 3 levels to this building, and all 3 levels were not used, only 1. That's what we call underutilized. So the new owners purchased the building, fixed up the facade, put a pottery gallery in the first floor. They live on the second floor, and in the basement they have their pottery studio, their potters. So it went from a third occupied to 100% occupied. That's what we want for all of our buildings, right? We want to see 100% occupancy, well used. When we think about restoring buildings, we certainly think about the governmental buildings, the city halls, the county offices, the post office, things like that. This happens to be in Hendersonville, and you may recall from a few years back, this building was slated, and this sits right in the middle of their Main Street, you may know. It was slated for demolition. It was not far from the wrecking ball at all. And they really went to work to save this building. It's an absolutely gorgeous building and a wonderful use. It's got a museum and community space and some other things like that. But, you know, again, that's typical restoration. We're restoring it back to the original use, the original look, etc. Well, this is also a restoration project. This is a building that I worked on in Lexington. It's an old Belk department store. And in the 60s, like most Belk department stores, the facade was covered over with those metal panels, those white panels. It's like, it seems to be going off the screen, but anyway, those white metal panels. Now, this was obviously taking those panels down. The building looked like that once they were removed. Looks pretty rough, doesn't it? Today, it looks like that. The exterior is fully restored. Now, Bell department store is not going to move back downtown, right? So we had to come up with a new use. Lexington, home of Lexington, we recruited them in to do an outlet. So they have a furniture outlet, as well as 4 other furniture-related uses in that building. So new use, interior is not restored, it's rehabbed, but the exterior is restored. It looks just like it did in 1935 when Bell Department Store built the building. And that's the before. So many of our buildings throughout North Carolina look something like this. Maybe there were brick buildings that were painted at some period of time, and they're not particularly appealing, and they don't exactly make you want to open up a business in those buildings. We have designers on staff that can draw up what the building should look like and could look like, and we marry that up with a work description. You all have have benefited from this service from time to time, and with that, you can pretty much take it to a contractor and get a close estimate on what it's going to take to rehab that facade. And many of our towns have got a facade grant program or something like that to even aid in that cost.
Liz, may I ask you a real quick question?
Yeah.
Is that a free service charge
It
to
is.
Main Street?
It is. We usually do that through photos. If we need to do that, if our designer, and we have one in Asheville, needs to travel out here to take some additional pictures, it would be travel expenses in addition to that, mileage.
But we could take, one of the board members could take a photo of a building that they may all think, that someone had expressed to them they wanted to look at, or a developer come in and they were wanting to look at an existing building. How could they put a more modern twist to it? We could take a photo of that and then send it to you guys?
Yes, the only thing that's important to note there is we can't do spec work. With 111 towns, we've got to know that, the property owner or business owner is ready to go with that. Yeah, but we're happy to do that for you. We have a process that we call it the design queue. You send in a form, goes to my assistant director, she'll log it in, and then it comes up on the rotation, and one of our designers will take it.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So this probably looks familiar to you. This was one that we did a couple of years ago that Lauren, that's in Asheville, did with Making Furniture Mart. And when we started that process, we all assumed, including Making Furniture, that there was a second floor behind that metal, right? And of course, as you all know now, and that was the design that Lauren did for the building and the work description, and married that up, and that's of course what it looked like. And I think maybe the sign's gone now. That's the detail on the sign. But a simple facade, yes. We do what we call conservative rehab. We're not looking to change the nature of the buildings. We're looking at the architectural character of each individual building and trying to bring that back or enhance or highlight those architectural details. And then the before. Quite a difference, really. This is over in Elkin. When this was the impetus for almost the entire block. Hospital thrift shop wanted to do something. Lauren drew it up, and what she didn't realize until she got in and started working with it was the windows that you see there were blocked in. And often property owners, when they're blocked in, not boarded up, blocked in, will not want to invest in that. But hospital, this group wanted to do that. They wanted to unblock those windows. And that's the blue awning is the building that I just showed you. But that was the beginning point for their Main Street program, and they've done almost that entire block now. Quite a change. We talk about displays with Main Street. Again, displays can be window displays or merchandising displays or even public space displays. And then streetscape. Now we don't, again, capacity issue, we don't design streetscape improvements as in construction documents, but we can give you concept plans if that's something that you're interested in. One of our designers, her background is landscape architecture, the other one's architecture, and we do all kinds of pocket parks and parking lots and streetscapes and you name it through this point of Main Street. And also ways of funding that. I'm a big believer that you don't fund that you fund everything that you do through a public-private partnership. I did a streetscape project early in my career with 200 different funding partners. It can be done. It's not the simplest thing to do, but I think it's the best way to do it in every single case. This is one concept drawing that one of our designers did for Baby a couple of years ago. If you think about it, streetscape really should serve as the backdrop for the buildings and the businesses. And that sure doesn't cut it, does it? But that does. And that's what streetscape should be. Clean, simple, accessible, carry you from one destination to the next, and serve as that backdrop for your businesses and your buildings. Signage, and every aspect of signage, is part of Main Street. So wayfinding, gateways, kiosks, banners, street signs, business signs, anything that's going to help get somebody to their destination and get down the street. And then public space, again, town squares or corners, parking lots, pocket parks, streetscapes, all of that falls under that public space arm of Main Street under design. So design's a big one, but again, it was created by the National Trust for Historic Preservation. So it's going to be a big one. The other big one's ER, economic restructuring. Now again, when we talk about restructuring, we're really restructuring the way that we think about downtown so that it better serves both the community and, in your case, the visitors today. So there's 5 basic areas of focus for ER. One, we want to understand the economic conditions of the downtown, and that means every aspect. We want to know how many buildings, what the conditions of those buildings are, how many businesses, which ones are doing well, which ones aren't, how many parking spaces, how many street trees, what's the tax value, how has that increased, everything, because that builds your baseline, right? And then measuring that every year. But in addition to that, strengthening existing businesses. So really that means building a relationship with those business owners so that they will trust the Main Street program enough. And when I say program, that's typically the director, but often the board too. Trust them enough that if they're in trouble or they need help, that they feel comfortable enough asking for the help, knowing what the resources are that are available to them. And then finding new economic uses. And when we talk about new economic uses, we're looking at new retail, new restaurant, new service, professional, nonprofit, governmental, and residential. Main Streets are mixed-use districts, right? So we have to look at all aspects of that in order to really create the healthiest downtown that we possibly can. Developing financial incentives. Now, again, I mentioned facade grants earlier. That's the most typical incentive program that we have. But we also have jumpstart programs to jumpstart businesses. We have building rehabs. We have upper story redevelopment grants. All kinds of things that our Main Street programs have created with both public and private resources. So combinations of things. And some of them have certainly gotten grants or foundation money to create those incentive programs. I'm sorry, I forgot to start clicking through. Let me click through and get caught up. Okay, and then monitoring the economic performance. Again, that's tracking the annual statistical data. Now that's reported to us each year in July. You all send it in, you've always sent it in. We've never had a problem with that, but that is a requirement of Main Street that data is submitted to us each year. And then again, track that data and tell that story. So make that, if you completed your statistics, make sure that you do a press release about the statistical changes from the previous year. Tell those stories in your annual meeting or your annual report. Celebrate those changes as they occur. If facade was improved, send in before and after photos to the local newspaper, etc. So the goals for downtown development are really quite simple. One, we want to increase the tax base, right? That's what we all want. We want to increase the loan demand of the deposits in the local financial institutions. We want to enhance the property values so that if a property owner wants to sell, they've gained value on that building. The retailers certainly want additional retail sales of goods and services. We want to create and retain the jobs that we have and keep growing those jobs and make them better jobs. So again, economic restructuring is a big point in Main Street. Economic development within the country. The program benefits everyone in town. For the downtown property owners, again, they're looking for that increase in property value, probably top in their mind. But they also want increased rental rates. They want better quality tenants, more stable tenants. They want to know that their building is being used to the best of its capacity. For downtown business owners, they're looking for more foot traffic, more people in their shops, increased retail sales, increased marketing efforts that Main Street programs do offer, and access to knowledge about the market. So we talk about, again, market data as a piece of Main Street. For the community at large, certainly more opportunities and places for people to work. That's the top one, right? But also quality of life. Again, increased public space and recreational park venues so that people can enjoy downtown. Come downtown, sit, drink a cup of coffee, talk to a neighbor, etc. Increased housing opportunities. Housing is just exploding in our downtown districts. Upper story redevelopment and sometimes new facilities that are on the edge of our downtowns. And new opportunities for volunteerism. For the most part, people want to be involved in their community, but why do people usually not volunteer? Anyone have an idea?
They're not asked.
They're not asked. Exactly. Exactly. And for the city and the county, increased tax revenue and certainly higher values are going to get you there. Business license, building permits, all those things that are fee-based that, again, will support the services for city and county governments to offer throughout the communities. So Main Street is truly changing the face of North Carolina. It's been one of the most successful economic development programs in the state. Let me show you some projects from around the state that are occurring. This is in Burlington. These are all, by the way, award-winning projects over the last few years. This is in Burlington. This is a former A&P grocery store. It sat vacant for 10 years. Today, it's the Company Shops Market. It's an organic, locally owned co-op, food co-op, and is just an incredible catalyst, has been the catalyst for about 15 or 16 additional businesses that have moved in a 2 to 3 block area in this part of downtown Burlington. Statesville has recently done one of the best streetscape projects in the state of North Carolina. They put their road on a diet. That means that they took a lane of traffic out in the middle and widened their sidewalks so they had more public access space and certainly retained their parking. It is a beautiful, beautiful streetscape project that is used by all. And again, a catalyst for business development. They had about 15 businesses move into the area that they did the streetscape the first couple of months that they had completed this work, and they're now doing the cross street and doing that. That's their next phase. Clinton had never done public art ever, and they just knocked it out of the ballpark. This is the textile roller mills, and they just did an incredible job. Got a grant to do this project. It sits right at the gateway to their downtown. Clinton's way east of here. Another project in Statesville. This is a project where the larger section of this building, they could not find a tenant. Well, you know, it's sort of dark and dingy and brown. Again, working with our designer, Lauren, that's in Asheville, Lauren looked at it and said, well, you know, this is an Italianate style building. We need to paint the details of the building so that it is enhanced and it will be attractive to a business. They painted the building and almost immediately filled that main space of their building. It's economic development, folks. We want to make sure that our buildings are well used by making good design choices on those buildings. This is a really neat project in Roxborough that won an award last year. A new owner bought a building, a little 2-story building, and wanted to put some longer-term use, residential uses in the upper floor, meaning she wanted them to be accessible to corporations that were local, that they could rent them for a week or a month or whatever the time period was. So you didn't feel like you were living in a hotel if you were there on business. So she did I think it's 3 condos on the second floor of this building. Has more of a public use on the first floor. But as she was doing this building, she uncovered ghost signs to the grocery store that had been in the neighboring building, that this was the next building built. So those ghost signs are on the interior of the residential walls. Really a neat little undiscovered or discovered asset for the downtown. In Mooresville, they're building loyalty for that downtown, and they did that by creating a loyalty program. It's a retail sales promotion. You go around with your passport, which is a photo on the left, get it stamped by 20 businesses, take it back to the downtown Mooresville office, and you get the card that the lady in the middle is holding, and that gets you discounts at all of those businesses and more as you come downtown to shop. So again, it's a customer loyalty program that they've developed. In Hickory, they needed a transportation hub, primarily for their buses, but also for their taxis. So they built a building that would serve as their hub for transportation, which is, the buses are well used in downtown Hickory, and that's the shelter. Nice, clean, neat, simple, LEED certified, environmentally sound is what LEED means, shelter. In Clayton, this was a very large parking lot that from 1960 roughly to 2010 roughly was a dirt lot. 50 years dirt lot. The city purchased the lot, obviously had parking in the back, and built this plaza in the front. And it's a great little asset to the downtown now. And on Thursday nights, they do line dancing. So it's well used. Couldn't see the picture there for a minute. That's Concord. Concord, this was their public works facility for a number of years. And they decided they needed a better use. So they took the buildings down and built a recreational center, meaning it's for tournaments. So it serves as youth basketball and volleyball tournaments, and they get thousands of people in their downtown every single weekend because of this one building. So now their next project is to figure out how to renovate their historic hotel so that they'll have a place right downtown to house them. A little alleyway in Reedsville that burned out. Fires happen, unfortunately. Silva's dealing with one right now, but they are trying to save their structure. But this one could not be saved. And so it was an alleyway that cut from Main Street back to a back parking lot. And, at night got really kind of sketchy and seedy and scary. They renovated the alley, and it's called, I forgot the name. It's named after their former town manager, but I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I have a college daughter that's a little needy these days. But a great alleyway to make that cut through much more accessible and pleasing. In Lexington, again, one of my old projects, Lexington is home of barbecue. They consider themselves the barbecue capital of the world. We did a project called Pigs in the City, and this was done actually 4 different times, so there's about 100 pigs around town. Some have been sold at auction, but it's designed to build tourism traffic. So the first summer we did this, we tracked visitors from 40 different states. Now that was at a time when half of the furniture manufacturing companies closed. So you can imagine how important that was to get foot traffic in. 40 different states came to Lexington, people from those states. But the really cool part of that project to me was at the end, when the pigs were sold at auction, the money went back in to take care of buildings. So that belt building that I showed you earlier, that was done because of that pig auction. The pig auction brought in $35,000 twice, so $70,000 were raised from selling pigs. Who knew?
Yeah.
In Reedsville, they wanted a nice place for their furniture market, so they built a marketplace. Serves as a farmer's market. And I mean, look at the detail. Just an incredible artist that's local, that does incredible brickwork. And he now comes to our conferences, working all over the state in Main Street communities. In Morganton had some alleys that were automobile alleys and emptied out onto Main Street, but because of the traffic patterns, really were not safe for people crossing the street, walking down the sidewalk. They closed the alleys, worked with local artists, and made them pedestrian alleys, so they're closed off to automobiles. Again, all of our downtowns are doing some sort of holiday activity or Christmas event. Lots of them are doing car shows, bike rides, runs, races, you name it. The healthy living thing is really taken off. This is a little building in Clayton. Sometimes it's not about the oldest buildings, it's about the buildings that can make a huge impact. A little building in Clayton, the awning is practically as big as the facade. It doesn't really do anything for the building or the business. They took off the awning, cleaned it up, put better lighting in, put better signage in, and we're able to rent the building immediately. Again, it's economic development. Another building in Statesville, I don't know if you can see that hot pink. The business owner wanted to paint the entire building hot pink because she wanted to get noticed. She thought if she painted it hot pink, she'd get it, surely she'd get her business noticed. Again, a nice Victorian building. A nice Victorian building. She painted the facade, and guess what? She saw an increase of 15% in retail sales activity in the very first year. That's pretty good. Economic development within the context of preservation. So many of our buildings look like this. This happens to be in Morganton, upper story that was just used for storage. You probably have a few like that here in Franklin as well. Today, it's high-end luxury condos and apartments, both. In Sanford, this is a row of buildings. I don't know if you know Sanford at all. Sanford has a railroad track on one end of their downtown, and this is on the wrong side of the tracks, and was used as warehousing for decades, and was painted white. Who cared? You know, it was just warehousing. They had a developer that came in and struck a deal with the city and said, okay, city, if you will do the infrastructure, the sidewalks, I'll take care of every building. I'll bring them up to code. I'll recruit businesses, etc. Well, today, that's the infrastructure improvements, and that's the business development, and they, again, put 15 new businesses in their downtown. We're able to house them in these buildings. And it's, again, it's in their downtown district, just happens to be on the other side of the railroad tracks. We're seeing a lot of theater development these days. This is in Shelby. The Marquee used to have a sign that said, "Rent me," for decades, probably 10 years. Today, it's the Don Gibson. We had our conference actually in this building a couple of years ago. But it's a beautiful Art Deco building. In Goldsboro, the Paramount burned not once but twice. And they had a local philanthropist that challenged the city and the local individuals to raise the money to rebuild the theater. Today it's actually in its second phase of renovation, so they're doing the interior one more time to bring that up a little nicer. But a great theater that, again, with a show and dinner and show and shopping, they've got activity in their downtown until 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, where they didn't before this theater was done. In Salisbury, we also had our conference in this building. It looks like a pool hall here, but today it's the Norville Children's Theater. It connects in with another theater that's on the other street, and they share backspace between these two facilities. So what do you get with kids when you have children's theater? What do you get? Parents and grandparents and money. And that's what comes to their downtown. Again, dinner and show kind of concepts, they're getting a lot more nighttime activity. In fact, this was their second theater. They now have a black box theater, and they're working on a fourth theater. So 4 theaters in downtown Salisbury to build out that activity level. Another building slated for demolition. This is in downtown Albemarle. In the district, it was, again, days away from the wrecking ball. They signed petitions and took it to the school board and said, we don't want you to tear down our historic assets. Today, it's an elementary school. It was a high school originally. It's today an elementary school. That's the theater, the playground. And what do you get with that? You get 75 teachers with classrooms. And they use their downtown as a classroom. So they take the kids and put them on a little rope and walk them down the street and teach them about commerce and architecture and history and heritage and why our downtowns and our communities are so vitally important to our downtown districts. Also in Salisbury, Bill wanted to retire. We all want to retire. I want to retire one day. I don't know that I ever will. Bill was in business for 75 years, Bill's Bakery. When he retired, the building was sold. They peeled back the metal that had covered over the transom, discovered it was completely intact, painted up the building, and today it's a Simply Good food market. It's a little organic food store kind of thing. Again, many of our downtowns are doing streetscape and building walking programs like Start With Your Heart, and there's several of them. Usually you connect in with the health department on those. But again, it's to get longer term use of our downtown, not just 8 to 5, but as close to 24/7 as we can get it. City halls, very, very popular in our downtowns. This happens to be in Waynesville. It looks like the mountains, right? If you built one that looks like the mountains. But in Clayton, sitting right outside of Raleigh, they built one to look like it's in a metro center. And even put in really high-end artwork as a piece of theirs. In Salisbury, they have that gorgeous city hall, so they renovated their city hall. And in Wake Forest, they built a brand spanking new city hall with a plaza because it's sitting outside of Raleigh. And that's their plaza at night. And in Goldsboro, they renovated their city hall. And when they needed more space, they added on to that. Now, all of our downtowns are celebrating through groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings and all the ways that we celebrate the success stories. We have to tell that story. Our program has really been successful over its almost 35 years, 34 plus years plus a few months. The program, you have to be under 50,000 in population to be selected. They range right now from 1,800 to 81,000. That's Concord. Concord was under 50 when selected, but obviously in the Charlotte region is going to pop over that 50,000 mark. We have historically selected every 2 to 3 years. We actually have not selected for a couple of years due to the state budget, but we'll get back to selecting at some point. Actually that number needs to be updated. We had 60 that were active as of 2 weeks ago. We had 2 that went inactive last week. Now, why did they go inactive? One was due to redirecting their resources more to the film industry. They're a big film town. And the other one, financially, just could not afford their Main Street manager. It's required to have a Main Street manager, but any town that goes inactive can become active again. So you all were inactive actually for quite some time. It is an application process, but you're competitive with yourself. You're not competitive with anyone else. But all of our downtowns really do serve as just tremendous models. So our role is to provide program guidance, just like we work with boards just like yours all over the state, to help understand what the program's all about. We do a lot of training and education, design assistance, again, a big piece of what we do, information sharing and networking. We have a Main Street Managers meeting that's going to be in Waynesville. 57 Main Street managers from around the state are coming to Waynesville. And again, they're going to be there for 2.5 days, and they're going to share and learn and explore and you name it. It's information sharing and networking. That's the real key success to Main Street. And then facilitation, again, through the process. We actually, that one of those early slides that I showed you that had the steps to Main Street, the economic drivers and vision, mission, planning, we can facilitate everything, actually anything you want to do. We can facilitate that process for you. It's a strategic planning process. It takes several months to do that. But if you need us to do that, it's only the cost of travel expenses, and we can do that for you. And make sure that describes the economic role that your downtown has, that you have a good, clear mission statement for your organization, and that you have that plan of work in place. Last year's statistics, we're actually totaling the 13-14 statistics now, and they're not quite available. But last year, we had $91 million that was invested in our Main Street communities alone, and over 1,000 jobs. The net gain from the cumulative number, $2 billion. That is economic development, folks, at its finest. Over 18,000 jobs, 4,500 buildings, and 4,600 facades. A great economic development success with this program through the years. Do you have questions on that? Did I wear you out?
It's kind of like a wow.
Well, that's the way I want you to feel about it. That's the way I want you to feel. Seriously, do you have questions about it? Or any surprises?
Well, not really a question, but the guy that came in and said he would do all those buildings if they would do the streets, I forgot where it was.
Yeah,
the
Sanford.
sidewalks.
Mhm.
And could you send him the program? Does he live there? We need him.
Well, truthfully, he was a local developer. And, most often towns think that they have to get the developers from someplace else. And most often, they're going to come from within your region. Maybe not your county, but within about an hour's drive from your town. So the best way to look at that is to look at local people who has the resources to invest and can make a difference. Who's investing in neighboring communities, like the Lepolis in Highlands, for example, or folks in Waynesville that have done a good job. Those are the people that you want to kind of zero in on and circle in and look to see if you have buildings that they might be interested in. Yeah.
The Polish worked on our Highlands Road.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
Do you have a division or department that would help us not only secure grants, but just to find out where the grant money is?
Yeah, actually, we have a funding guide that we can make available to you. My assistant director, Teresa, maintains that for us. It's got probably 25 pages worth of nothing but grants right now. It's in an Excel spreadsheet with links directly to the grant sources.
One thing that discourages me as far as towns are concerned is the General Assembly right now. And I noticed they have just done away with the historic preservation tax credit program,
Yeah.
which is going to hurt us. Just when we were thinking about a couple of projects,
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's gone now.
Yeah.
And also, I think they cut your program $650,000.
They actually ended up at the end of the day cutting our program by 320. But you're right, still a significant cut. We lost 10 people between us and our community planning program, which are sister and brother programs that we work together on. And you're right, the tax credits is certainly a significant loss to downtowns all over the state. We are hoping to get that program reinstated, restructured. They'll restructure, they'll reinstate it in the future.
Does it look very optimistic?
Go ahead and give that to him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is the funding guide, the grant guide. Does it look, that's a good question, and I can't answer that, to be honest, but we're certainly hopeful. It is the best used tool that we've ever had in Main Street.
Good.
Without a doubt.
We're thinking of working right now with a professional grants writer.
Mm-hmm.
We really don't have anybody on staff that has the time.
Yeah.
A town the size of Franklin.
Sure.
And sometimes I feel like grants are passing us by.
Yeah.
And, actually today I talked to a guy from Washington about the demise of the community development block grants.
Right.
This is really hurting local municipalities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
We used to could do a lot with those grants.
Primarily with housing, is that what you're
It
doing?
doesn't matter. They
Yeah.
were for so many different things,
Yeah.
even infrastructure.
Well, there's still some infrastructure money, there's still some economic development money, and when that, what they call it economic development is industrial development, it's not like downtowns, but
Yes.
there is still some available through Commerce, and if you need help making the connections on who's managing those programs now, Summer, if you'll email me, I'll get you those names.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Excuse me, is that if, when you do that, those programs, are they funded through the Main Street program?
Well, it all depends, yeah, it all depends on the grant source. Some grants will only travel through the town government, some will only travel through a nonprofit. So it all depends on which grant source it is as to which channel it would take to get through to your local. Like our Main Street Solutions grant program, it's actually a three-way partnership. So if you were to, for example, apply for a project through that fund, the money is going to travel from the state to the town and from the town to the private developer or business owner. But the town, the downtown organization, and the property owners or business owners, whoever's involved, have to all buy in and sign off on that grant. So it's a partnership.
It's a partnership, okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Maybe you can answer this. A lot of people don't know it, but our Main Street is a training ground for NASCAR race driving. And, we're interested in traffic calming things out there. They won't let me do what I really want, and that's stop sticks. But where could we go to get, where would you suggest we start looking to see if there was any grant money for those type of things that would not be real major,
Yeah.
but it would make such a difference downtown?
Sure, exactly. I would probably start with DOT, but let me take a look at our sources. Not our Main Street program can't fund that, but let me look through our funding guide and see if I can identify some additional
That'd be
sources
wonderful.
for you on that.
Yeah.
You know, what's funny about traffic calming, you think that you need to put in stop lights to stop traffic, but stop signs actually calm traffic much better. And most towns don't make that connection. So,
Well, if I had my way, we'd do away with every traffic light in Franklin and put in roundabouts.
well, there you go. There you go. You just need a little bit more space, and you can't tear down your historic buildings.
Well, you can if you do it and then tell them about it.
Any other questions before I move on? Y'all doing okay? You need a break, or are you doing okay? Okay, good. I want to go over what the requirements are. Come on, there we go. For Main Street with you. These have changed a little bit through the years, and I know you can't see that, so I'm going to read that to you. So, again, this is a document that we give to all Main Street communities. All Main Street communities have to abide by the same requirements to be a designated Main Street community in good standing with the state of North Carolina. One, you have to participate in all the services that we offer when we come to town. So in other words, you're here. You just met that requirement. It's really bad if I travel from Raleigh and no one on the board shows up, for example, right? That doesn't make me real happy. But it simply says if we're in town, if we're working with you, that you are also participating in what we're offering. Main Street communities are required to have a full-time Main Street director if you're above 5,000 in population. If you're below 5,000, you only have to have a part-time Main Street director. Again, dedicated to Main Street, to the Main Street program. Now, some of our programs have, they share staff. In North Wilkesboro, for example, half-time tourism director, half-time Main Street director. They're under 5. That's fine with us, but 20 hours a week. You have to obtain a 501c3, a 501c nonprofit designation. 3, we'll open up the grant sources for you, but a few of our older ones have got 6s or 4s, or you have to be associated with state government. And as I said earlier, 23 are what we call quasi, meaning they're associated with both. And that's a growing model. We've seen about 6 programs convert to that over the last couple of years. So it's And why? Because the position is then more stable under town government, but it opens up that funding structure to get grants and foundation money under the C3. Establish broad-based support for the commercial district revitalization process with strong support from both the public and the private sector. Again, as I said earlier, the public sector is both in partnership together. Establish and maintain an active board of directors and committees using the Main Street 4-point approach and develop a comprehensive Main Street work plan using the Main Street 4-point approach. So again, what does that mean? A working board, meaning that you all are all board members, but you are actively participating in the work that you all designate to be the plan for the year.